The setting is a busy depot filled with large dump trucks. Vehicles are parked closely together. A driver has just stepped out of his red cab truck, assuming the vehicle is fully secured, perhaps to check paperwork or adjust the trailer. Suddenly, the large truck begins to creep forward, quietly gaining momentum. The driver instantly realizes his critical mistake. The brakes were not firmly set, or the wheel chocks were not in place. This lapse in procedure initiates a dangerous chain of events. Panic takes over. Instead of letting the massive vehicle roll away safely into an open area, the driver rushes to the cab. He yanks the door open, trying to jump in and reach the pedal or the brake lever. In a disastrous moment, the truck's slow but powerful forward movement pins him between his own truck door and the adjacent parked vehicle. The driver is caught by the sheer tonnage and relentless forward creep of his own machine. The momentum of the massive vehicle creates an unavoidable pinch point, demonstrating the absolute danger of unsecured loads and vehicles. The safety lesson is absolute. A vehicle without its brakes locked is not parked, it is a rolling hazard. Never try to physically stop or jump back into a moving heavy vehicle. On the highway, even the most focused driver can face a threat that defies all expectation. This is not about traffic or speed, it is about an absolute roadside hazard that appears without warning. A motorcyclist travels at highway speed. The road ahead is busy but clear. The rider is attentive, navigating the steady flow of vehicles. Everything appears routine until it isn't. From the oncoming lanes across the concrete divider, an unsecured wheel breaks free from a passing vehicle. It is a rogue missile, crossing the barrier at high speed, bouncing unpredictably into the rider's path. The motorcyclist has only a split second to perceive the dark object hurtling towards them. There is no time to brake, no path to safety. The wheel strikes the rider directly with devastating force, instantly separating them from the motorcycle. The rider is thrown to the pavement, while the bike continues to coast before veering into the roadside barrier. Inside a dimly lit processing area, a worker prepares to unload a heavy mining cart filled with material. The entire process hinges on precision and respect for the weight involved. The loaded cart is positioned on the rail platform, ready for the drop. The worker, dressed in blue protective gear, steps onto the raised rails to align the load. His focus is entirely on the movement directly in front of his feet, leading him to lean forward and down, completely oblivious to the drop-off point just ahead. As he begins to push the cart, the massive weight overcomes the friction, and the cart surges forward unexpectedly. Because the worker is leaning over the front of the wagon, focusing only on the rails beneath him, he fails to realize they have reached the edge. Caught between the accelerating steel cart and the platform, the worker is instantly dragged forward. There is no time to react. He is pulled down with the load and falls into the opening, disappearing in a split second as the heavy cart follows its trajectory. This catastrophic sequence highlights a failure in critical safety zones. No worker should ever be positioned in the direct path of a moving heavy load, especially near an uncontrolled drop-off. The immediate area around a moving rail cart must be considered an absolute exclusion zone. A mobile crane is positioned near a tall tower structure, preparing to handle heavy components. The lift operation is underway, but a critical error has occurred. The crane's load stability is instantly compromised. As the crane begins to lift or reposition its burden, the heavy vehicle's balance is overwhelmed. It begins a slow, unstoppable tilt. Two workers positioned on or near the trailer are caught in the disaster. As the massive steel crane tips, the men are hurled upward, riding the machine as it rolls over. They are carried to the highest point before being violently thrown down as the crane crashes onto the ground and trailer. In a recycling yard, a massive excavator is feeding a hydraulic press. But in the presence of heavy machinery, one sudden action can instantly invite catastrophe. The machine operator skillfully scoops up a load of scrap metal, precisely dumping it into the baler for compaction. Suddenly, the excavator retreats, and the driver exits the safety of the cab. He quickly moves towards the powerful machine, perhaps to clear a jam or inspect the mechanism's interior. His focus is entirely on the press, and he assumes the area is clear and the operation is paused. He leans in, reaching over the massive hydraulic chamber. This is the critical moment, placing a body part inside the operating range of a machine, instead of following strict lockout procedures. Without warning, the press ram cycles. The enormous force of the machine begins its operation, and the worker is immediately caught in the closing mechanism. This is a stark reminder of the energy stored in hydraulic systems. Never ever enter the hazard zone of a hydraulic press or any automated machine without confirming the power is completely shut off and locked out. Safety barriers and clear lines of sight are lifelines. Neglecting them turns a routine inspection into a life-threatening entanglement. On a quiet residential street, a routine tree trimming job is underway, But working near live power lines with unsteady equipment is a recipe for instant catastrophe. The worker is high up, standing on the unanchored scaffolding structure. He is using a powerful chainsaw to cut a large section of tree that is dangerously close to the overhead electrical lines. Below him, two co-workers are standing on the ground, but they are not acting as spotters, nor are they supporting the unstable metal tower. The large branch is cut, and instead of falling safely to the side, its weight impacts the main trunk. This sudden shock, combined with the lack of safety tie-offs, violently destabilizes the scaffolding. In a split second, the structure collapses, sending the worker and the heavy metal platform crashing onto the street. This incident proves that gravity and electricity show no mercy for shortcuts. Never ever use an unanchored scaffolding or ladder to work near power lines, and always secure your equipment before cutting heavy loads. Proper tie-offs, ground support, and professional lifting equipment are not optional. They are the absolute standard for survival when working at height. On a wet construction site, three workers stand talking casually in a busy zone. In heavy industry, simple conversation can instantly turn into a sudden life-and-death threat from above. The workers are positioned near a large stack of metal piping, focused only on their discussion. They fail to notice the active work happening on the structure directly above them. Without warning, a piece of heavy debris or scrap material detaches from the upper levels and plummets toward the group. The object strikes one worker directly on the head. Fortunately, the mandatory hard hat absorbs the full impact. The head protection takes the force, sparing the worker from a critical injury. This is a powerful lesson in the absolute necessity of personal protective equipment. Never, ever disregard the mandatory use of a hard hat in any construction or industrial environment. Every overhead work zone requires clear safety netting and exclusion zones below, but your last line of defense is always the PPE you wear. On a quiet suburban lawn, a seemingly harmless experiment with fire suddenly explodes into chaos. A group of friends attempts a controlled burn, but poor judgment and highly flammable liquid create a massive risk. The incident begins with a small flame, then an individual adds accelerant directly to the fire, causing an immediate violent flare-up. The intense heat forces the group to back away instantly. Within seconds, the initial small flame spreads across the grass. The fire quickly becomes uncontrollable, consuming a large portion of the yard and moving dangerously close to structures and fences. They try to extinguish the spreading flames, but without proper tools, the effort is futile. This incident demonstrates a critical safety failure: the volatility of fire when handled by untrained persons. Never use flammable liquids to start or fuel a fire. Any attempt to control an outdoor fire without professional equipment and safe clearance is a grave hazard. Fire safety demands respect, distance, and the immediate availability of appropriate extinguishing agents. Safety is non-negotiable. This incident reveals the immediate consequences of neglecting load limits in a fast-paced environment. The operator is moving at speed with a significantly oversized and unstable metal load. As the forklift accelerates, the enormous weight causes the machine's center of gravity to shift drastically forward. The rear wheels instantly lift clear of the ground, completely sacrificing steering control. The load, unsecured and unbalanced, immediately slips from the forks and crashes down. This maneuver demonstrates a clear disregard for basic lift capacity and safe operation speed. A critical safety principle is stability. Never operate a lift with a load exceeding its rated capacity. Once the rear wheels lift, the operator has lost control, creating a severe drop hazard. Respect the machine's limits. Maintain a steady pace. Caution is always the quickest route to safety. This shocking footage illustrates the catastrophic risk of operating heavy machinery too close to dense shelving units. The operator is moving a forklift in a narrow warehouse aisle, demonstrating a severe lack of awareness regarding clearance. In a split second, the top of the raised mast strikes the racking system. The impact immediately destabilizes the entire upper structure. Heavy pallets and merchandise come crashing down as the racking collapses like dominoes. This single error creates a profound safety violation, destroying valuable property and endangering personnel nearby. Precision is paramount when maneuvering equipment within tight warehouse layouts. Operators must be trained to respect minimum clearances and constantly monitor mast height and travel direction. The safety of the entire structure relies on slow, calculated movements. Do not let caution be silenced by routine.